All right, well, welcome today to our session, Improving Writing with Google Docs. I am your presenter today. My name is Eric Curts, and I am a technology integration specialist up here in Northeast Ohio at an organization called Spark. For those of you who are in a state where you use Park, I need to make a comment that I'm in no way connected whatsoever to Park. We just have very similar sounding names. Now, Spark is the Stark Portage Area Computer Consortium. I serve about 28 or 30 school districts up here in Northeast Ohio as a technology integration specialist. I'm also a Google certified teacher and a Google education trainer. I run a website called Apps User Group where I put all of my Google Apps resources. Definitely feel free to check that out. Loads and loads of help guides and handouts and videos and presentations there for you. I also help run the GEG Ohio, the Google Educator Group of Ohio, as well as a local one up in our area. And pretty much for everything else, you can just go to ericcurts.com to find out other things about me. I am joined today by my friend and colleague, Jessica Boylan. Jessica, why don't you go ahead and let people know a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. I am a technology integration specialist for Brown Local Schools located in Malvern, Ohio, south of Eric at Spark. This is my first year in this position, and in this first year, I've met a lot of amazing educators, and I've learned so much from them. I have my master's degree in instructional technology, and I'm also a Google certified educator. When I'm not working, I'm a wife and a mom to 3 wonderful kids who are ages 6, 4, and 18 months. And if I do happen to get any free time, I like to read, travel, and spend it with my friends. And I'm very excited to be here with Eric today, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, wonderful. It is a pleasure to have you here. It's a pleasure to get to work with Jessica day in and day out there with our schools. So so happy she could be with us today. And I have one more introduction to make. He's not going to be really with us here today, but he's a bit of an inspiration for the session. And this is one of my kids. I have 4 kids, a daughter and 3 sons, and this is my youngest son. His name is Grant, and he was a bit of the inspiration for the session that we're taking a look at here today. And here's kind of how that came about. Grant is a 2nd grader, and he had a school project coming up where he was supposed to write a report on Martin Luther King Jr. And there was no technology required at all in it. It was just basically when it was done, he needed a piece of paper with his report on it. He needed a couple of pictures and some things to share with the class, but there was no requirement that it would have to be a technology-oriented report. Well, I walk through the kitchen, and there he is sitting at the kitchen table with his Chromebook open. And yes, Grant does have a Chromebook. It's what he wanted for Christmas, and so that's what he's got. So here's my little 2nd grader sitting there at the kitchen table with his Chromebook open, and he's writing his Martin Luther King Jr. report in Google Docs on his Chromebook. And I'm like, well, what are you doing, bud? And because I know in the end, he just needs to handwrite this. He's going to have to eventually handwrite it to turn it in. And he said he preferred doing his writing in Google Docs on his Chromebook. And it was for a number of reasons. It was really exciting. And we're going to look at a lot of these here today. But first of all, it's easy for him to fix things. He really likes to be able to type and go back and change things and insert stuff or delete things. But he was also using some of the add-ins and plugins we're going to be talking about today. He was using the speech recognition add-on that Jessica's going to talk about, where he was speaking out loud to the Chromebook and having it translate his words and type for him. He was also using one called Read and Write for Google that I'm going to be talking about here a little bit later. He was having his words then read back to him so he could hear it read back, and that was helping him make corrections. And I thought, what an amazing thing that when presented with this project and no instruction at all to do anything with technology was his first thought. He thought, this is how I want to improve my writing. This is how I want to do this project. And that really just, it was an inspiration to me to be excited to see, yep, all these things I talk about, they really do make a difference. and it really does work. Students really do use this. And I'm so excited to see that he was doing that. So he's sort of our 3rd person today. He's actually at a birthday party, which I'll be heading to shortly after this to catch up with him, but he won't be with us today other than in spirit. All right, so just a little bit of housekeeping before we dive into the actual meat of our presentation. I want to thank Google for putting this on today. This is part of Google's Education on Air series, and so hopefully you are viewing this live right now as part of that. And if you are, definitely feel free to type in any questions or comments that you have. Below the video today, Jess is going to be keeping an eye on that and helping to move any questions on over to me to answer, or she may be typing in some answers as well. In addition to this being part of Google's Education on Air, this is also a part of the weekly webinars that we do through Spark. So if you like this, if you really get excited, hey, this was a great day, I love this Education on Air thing, well, guess what? You don't have to just wait for this to come around again, although I'm so happy that Google does this. We actually do this every week. So through Spark, we typically put on one webinar a week. And so if you go to TI, Tech Integration, ti.apps.spark.org, you can find all of our weekly webinars there, and you can take part in those going forward or watching the ones that have already been recorded in the past. All right, so what are we going to be doing here today? Well, our focus here today is to talk about improving the writing process using Google Documents. And we're going to look at three main areas to this. We're going to talk about sharing and collaborating. We're going to talk about sharing student writing with a larger audience, and we're going to talk about tools to improve the writing process. Those are the three main areas we're going to hit as we go through this presentation here today. Now, as far as what you need to be successful with this session today, basically you should have a Gmail or a Google Apps account. If your school has Google Apps, that's fantastic. If not, you can certainly get your own Google account just through Gmail, and that would give you access to all of the tools and resources that we're using today. It would be helpful if you had a general understanding of docs and web apps and extensions and add-ons. That would make it be a little bit easier because we won't be going really, really slow through all those different things. We'll be moving kind of quick through them. But you know what? If you don't, no problem. I have a full help guide at tiny.cc/spark216. And that will take you out to a site where I've got a pretty detailed help guide. Actually, I'll pop out to there right now so you can see it. That will take you out to the website where I have a help guide, and I've got the slideshow as well as a few other things. And the help guide is this big old guy here. It's about 17 pages long. And so if there's anything we talk about today that we move a little fast through and you'd like to circle back around and learn more about, this guide has all of the gory details on exactly what buttons to push to make each of these different things happen. All of this is also available through the Education on Air site. There is a handout linked in there as well, and I also have the help guide linked from that page as well. All right. So again, just as a reminder, session resources can be found there, as well as a certificate of attendance. I did have some folks asking, can I get credit for this? Can I get a certificate of attendance for watching these? And this is something that we do for all of our webinars. And so for this session today, if you do go to tiny.cc/spark216, on that page, you will see there is a spot where it says get certificate, and you can take a quick 5-question quiz after this webinar is done. And if you pass the quiz, you'll get emailed a PDF certificate of attendance. That's also linked in on the shared document there as well. You'll see there's a link to that quiz. So that'll allow you to have a certificate of attendance for the session today. All right, guys, let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how the built-in sharing and collaborating tools inside of Google Docs can help with the writing process. So at this point, we're not talking about any add-ons or anything extra you need to do, things that are just built in normally to Google Docs, how sharing and collaborating can help improve the writing process. So what I've got here is just a sample document, nothing too fancy about this. It's a George Washington report here that I had put together a little bit earlier. And I'm going to say that I'm a student and I'm writing up this report. And Jess and I want to talk to you about how sharing this document with others can help in the writing process. So if you're not familiar with sharing and collaborating in Google Docs, as a really, really quick overview, inside of each document, you can go up to the top right-hand corner and click on the blue share button, and that allows you to share your document with other people and give them view rights, comment rights, or edit rights. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go ahead and share this with Jessica. And I'm also going to share it with my other account. So I'm going between two accounts here. So I'm going to share it with my personal account. I'm also going to share this with Jessica. And I can give a different layer of permissions here. I can either give just view rights, so Jess and my other account can just view the document, or I could give comment rights. If I do comment rights, then Jessica and my other account can leave comments or can suggest edits or changes to the document without really making any changes, or I can go so far as to give full edit rights so the other accounts can actually make changes. I'm going to start off by just giving us comment rights so we can kind of see what that looks like there. I'm going to go ahead and hit send, and away it goes. And so now I have just shared this document with Jess, and I've also shared it with my other account. So I'm going to go ahead and I will open this up in my other, Jess is jumping in right now. You can see there she is. So she's jumping in up there at the top. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my other account here and jump into Drive. Oops, go ahead and jump into my Drive here and go to my shared with me folder. And in there, you'll see that I should have a copy of the George Washington document. There it is. So there's my George Washington document that I just shared. Now you can see in this case, because I only gave comment rights, okay, there's really only two things I can do as a commenter. One thing I can do is I can come in here and I can highlight anything that I'd like to in the document, and then I can click Insert Comment, and that pops up a little box over here on the side where I can leave some feedback. I'll just put in just testing for right now, just so there's something in there. And that's one of my options, is to leave comments on different parts of the document. Another option I have is what's called suggested edits. If I come in here and I click and I start typing, I can actually start typing some information right into the document. So I'll say something like, you could use to have more information here. And so I can actually type that right into the document. Now it looks like I'm editing the document, but it's actually what's called a suggested edit. What it does is it just pops up this little box on the side and says, Eric Curts is suggesting that you add this to your document here. All right. Now let me pop back over to being the owner of the document. And so now here I am as the owner of the document. And as the owner of the document, I can do a lot of things with these suggestions. I can come over here to the side and I can say, all right, Eric has suggested this. I can either accept it with the checkbox or I can reject it with the X here. If I accept it, it goes ahead and it makes the change permanent. And the same thing over here with the comments, the marginal comments. I can click up there and I can actually have a conversation with the person who left the comment, and we can have a conversation going down the side here. And if it turns out that I end up being done with that conversation, I can hit the resolve button to fold it away. So that's the idea of commenting. At the same time, I could have come here, and when I shared this, I could have given my other account and Jess full edit rights to the document. So I'm going to go ahead and go back through and update that. So I'm going to save those changes and give full edit rights. So now if I pop back over to my other account here, and if I refresh the screen, I'm no longer commenting. I actually have full edit rights. And so at this point, I can type anything in here that I would like to. All right. Now we're going to pause here. I think Jess is probably going to type in, she'll probably type in a few things, throw in a little blah, 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 something in there. That's perfectly fine. But let's go ahead and pause for a second and let's chat about how this can be valuable in the writing process. Well, first of all, let me take this from a teacher's point of view. If I'm a teacher and I have access to my student's document, this is a fantastic way for me to be able to leave feedback to the student on what they're writing. Now, it could be that this is after the project is done. So it could be, okay, the student has completed this and they've turned it in to me for grading now. I can now leave feedback to them on things that they should be improving. And the philosophy behind that is, it shouldn't just be a one and done approach. Like, okay, students, here's your assignment, write this up, turn it in, I give you a grade, it's over, it's done, throw it away, move on. Instead, we want writing to be a process. We want it something that continues over a period of time where students are revising and they're trying to make things better than just the one-time shot that they did. So by being a teacher, having the option to be able to leave comments, to put in suggestions there for the students, it encourages them to continue to write and to write better and to revise. Now, It doesn't have to be after the project is over and turned in. This can also be done during the writing process, especially if you're using Google Classroom. One of the wonderful things about Google Classroom is if you create an assignment and push it out to your students, you have immediate access to it right away. Here, let me pull up a Google Classroom page and I'll show you really quick here. If I go into Google Classroom, and I'll just grab one of my classes here. Probably doesn't really matter which one. I'll just grab a class. If I come in here to any of my assignments, you'll see that as soon as I assign it, it'll tell me how many students have done it and how many have not done it. Well, the neat thing about this is I can go to the not done batch, and I don't have to wait. I don't have to wait until the student turns it in. Right from the very beginning, I can go to the not done group, and if somebody has, here we go, I can go to the not done group and I can click on their document even if they haven't turned it in to me yet. So I can click on their document, I can open it up, and I can see how they're doing on their writing project. Well, what's great about that is it allows me to intervene with the student before the project is even due. I can start helping them. If it's a student who maybe struggles, I can say, okay, this student typically has a difficult time with this. I'm not going to wait until Friday when this is due. I'm going to go through Classroom and I'm going to check on them right now. And I'm going to start leaving feedback now. And I'm going to give them encouragement now, even this early on. All right, so that's sort of a view from a teacher point of view. Jess, what about from a student point of view? What ways can students share a document with other students that might help improve the writing process rather than just sharing it with just their teacher? Any feedback on that?
Yeah, we have, last year when I taught technology and we were starting our rollout of Google Apps, I just had them do some brainstorming for a presentation we were going to do, and they had never shared a document before. So I showed them how to share it, and within minutes, they had, I mean, a whole page of information. They thought it was so cool that they could see what each other was writing instead of, you know, when they have their traditional pencil paper out, you know, they're going back and forth between who wrote what, and then chances are they probably wrote the same thing, and they're trying to duplicate that. So by having this shared document between students, they're able to see what each other is doing. And I think the quality of work increases because they're able to elaborate more because that barrier of traditional pencil paper, looking it up in a textbook or off of a screen, is taken away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't just have to be, which is, you know, very common, teachers giving feedback and using that to improve the writing process. It can be students working with each other. And so it could be things like peer review. You know, there's only one of you and you've got 125 students. Well, when they type up their document, instead of turning it into you first, they could share it with some of their classmates, you know, whatever groups you've got them in, and they wouldn't have to give their other classmates edit rights. They could just give them comment rights, and those classmates could then leave peer-reviewed comments and feedback on their document. Now, the same thing, like we said, is true. You as the teacher can do the same as well. But then, like you were talking about, just collaborative writing, having students work together on a project. It's not something that it has to be just students working on their own, but they can be writing a story together or an article and collaborating as well. Well, before we leave this first topic of sharing and collaborating, let's hit on one more piece of that, and that's revision history and how that can be helpful in the writing process. So I'm going to pop back over to the George Washington document here, and we haven't made a bunch of changes to it, but we've done a little bit. We've typed in a few things, and we've made a few little changes to it so far. Well, one thing that's nice to know is that anytime you've got a Google document or really any Google file, there is something called revision history. That if I come up here and I click on File, and I go down and I click on See Revision History, what it does is it pops up over to the side here a list of every change that has been made to the document since it began. And you can see who made the change and what change they made. So I can see right here that Jessica at 121 typed in the word introduction because it's color-coded her with the pink color. I'm color-coded in green, and it shows that I typed in something here. You could use to have more information here. That was what I typed in there in green. And then if I keep going back earlier, you can see that this was my original suggestion from my other account when I had put that in. But what's so great about this is, as a teacher, you have the ability to use this revision history to get a deeper look at the writing process than you would have ever had before. In the past, if a student were just to type something up or handwrite something and hand it into you, you just see the final product. But with revision history, you can go back through time and actually see how they typed it up, see the decisions they made and what they typed first and what they changed. This is also great if you have given them suggestions for improvement. So maybe they turned in their document and you left a bunch of marginal comments and some suggested edits, and they went back and they revised it, and now you're grading it for the second time. Well, you can use revision history to go back in time and say, well, did they make the change? And how did they make the change? What did that paragraph look like before? What does it look like now? Revision history is also a great way, if it is a group project, to see what each of the different students did. How much did they each contribute to this? A final thing I'll say about this is if you do have concerns about plagiarism, this is also an option to kind of help you with that. If you are reading through a student's report and something just doesn't seem quite right, it just isn't feeling right as you're reading it, you can go into the revision history, and as you go back through, what you should be seeing is, a sentence typed in, half a sentence typed in, a few words typed in, every minute something different. If all of a sudden, at 1:30 there's 5 paragraphs, boof, just in the document, then typically that's going to mean it was copied and pasted from somewhere. So it can be a really good way for you to take a look at plagiarism issues if you are concerned that those might be existing. All right. So anyway, that gives you a couple of quick ideas about how sharing and collaborating can be a powerful thing with Google Docs, whether it is students doing peer review, whether it's you as a teacher leaving comments and feedback for your students to improve their writing, whether it's students collaborating and writing together, or whether it's you using the revision history tool to look back through the process of how the document was created and how the student's writing has improved during that project. All right, let's switch gears just a little bit to our second main topic. So first was just sharing and collaborating. The second is sharing, but in a different way, sharing student writing with a larger audience. There's a great quote by Rushton Hurley, and hopefully I've got this correct here. Apologies to Rushton if I've botched this in any way, but I believe he said, when children create for the world, they make it good. When children create only for their teacher, they make it good enough. And the idea is, if the project is for them to write an article or write a story or write a poem or write a report, and they know you're the only one who's ever going to see it, now come on, I'm sure your kids love you and you're their favorite teacher, and that is fantastic. That goes a long way to helping encourage them to write. But still, if it's just for you and they know you're going to read it, grade it, and give it back, and that's the end of it, then they will do it just good enough because they want it to be good enough to get the right grade. But we have such an amazing ability now with technology that it doesn't have to stop with you. Children can create for the world now because everything's digital, because Google Docs is in the cloud. There's no reason for the writing to stop with just you as an educator. There's several options here. We're going to take a look at 2 really quick options for how you could share this out with the rest of the world. One of them is just using the normal share button that we talked about a moment ago, but instead of sharing the document with specific people, sharing it so that it is publicly viewable out to the world. So how do you do that? Okay, well, let me pull that document back up and I'll show you real quick what I mean. So if I go back to my document, I hit the happy big blue share button. You saw earlier, I shared this with Jess, and then I shared this with my other account. And that's fine. But what if I want to share it with the world? Well, I don't know everybody in the world. I don't have all their email addresses. So instead of doing this where you share it with specific people, up in the top right-hand corner, you see an option that says Get Shareable Link. There we go. Let's give that a click. If I give that a click, what happens is I get a really long link that gives me the ability to share this with anybody in the world who has that link. Now, I can decide how broad this goes. So you'll see right here, it says at the moment, anybody in my school can view it. And maybe that's all you want to do. Maybe that's as far as you want to share it. Hey, you know what? That's even fine. Even then, you've now made the document viewable by probably hundreds or thousands of students. But it doesn't have to stop there. I can click on the More button here, and I can say, you know what? I'm not just going to make this visible to people in my school district. I'm going to make it public on the web. I can take it all the way up to being public on the web, and then I can give people view rights, edit rights, or comment rights. Now, I'd probably stay with view rights. I would not encourage you putting something public on the web that has edit rights, because you don't know what people would type in. But we can make this public on the web, and we can say they can view it. And now I can hit save. And what that means is this link now, anybody who has this link can view that document. Okay, little bit of a challenge here. It's not a pretty link. Yeah, it's not at all. It's this crazy long link here. But I can copy this link and I can do a number of things with it. Now, I'll suggest a few, and then Jess, if you've got some ideas about different ways maybe we could make this link available to people, that would be fantastic. Definitely feel free to chime in here and interrupt me. But basically, a couple of ideas. So let's say your students have written up their articles, their reports, their poems, their stories, and you now want the world to be their audience, not just you as the teacher. You want other people to see it, and you tell the kids that, hey guys, we're going to share this outside of just this classroom. Well, what could you do with that link? Well, certainly one thing you could do is just put it on your web page. So you could come in here and you could copy this link, and then maybe you've got a class website and you could have a section on that class website for student work. Well, basically you just need to put that link on your website, and now anybody who goes to your website, they can click on that link and they can read that. So maybe you've got a page on your website, on your classroom site for student work, and you highlight, work from all of your students or some selected work. That would be a very simple way to do it. Okay. Other ways that you could get this link out to people. Certainly social media is fine. You could tweet the link. You could put it on Facebook. If your school has any other sort of social media that you're working with, some of the LMSs out there allow you to do the same. So you could email it out. So you could put this into an email message and send that link out as well. If you really want to get fancy, you could even create a QR code. I'll do a quick Google search for a QR code. We could go to a site like Kaiwa. And from Kaiwa, we could go in and generate a quick QR code for this. And if you're not familiar with QR codes, what those are, they're those little black and white little boxes there. So if I come in and if I say I want to generate a QR code for this, give that a second to do its thing. All right, there we go. So here I now have this black and white QR code that I could download, print out, and then if anybody has a mobile phone or a tablet, anything with a camera on it, they could just walk by, scan that QR code, and boom, jump right to that document. So when might you do that? Well, you could put them up in your classroom on Parents' Night, or you could have these put in the display case at your school underneath the project students have done to link to a document where the student has written about why they painted that picture or why they made that sculpture, whatever the project might be. So there's a lot of different ways. The point is, once you've got this link, you need to get it out to the world. Jess, any other ideas of good ways to share those links out to other people?
You've touched on most of them. We have sent the QR codes in newsletters. A lot of our classes have utilized social media, Twitter or Facebook. Outside of that, I think you covered most of them.
Excellent. Well, that is great. Well, let's talk about.
Use Remind if you want to send that out. Possibly.
Remind. Yeah, it used to be Remind 101. Now they're just Remind. A lot of schools use that. There you go. Another perfect example of a way to share out student writing beyond just your teacher's desk. All right. Well, let's go a step further. So that's great. Well, if you really want to get fancy, another option is the Google Play Bookstore. Now, there's a lot of online bookstores out there. You've got Amazon, and you've got, Apple has their own bookstore as well. But one thing that I think that really makes the Google Play Bookstore unique is it allows anybody to upload things. Now, you do have to be 18 years or older, so you as the teacher would have to be the person who's actually uploading things. But anybody can upload something to the Google Play Bookstore. You can upload as either a PDF or as an EPUB, so either format is fine. And here's what really makes it awesome. You can make it free. You don't have to charge for things that you upload there. Most of the other stores, they may have a grace period where it can be free for a little while, but they do require that you eventually put a price on it. Well, maybe we don't want to do that. We just want to get our students' work out there. So maybe you're going to pull together a collection of student poetry, or you've got an essay topic and all the students are going to write an essay based on that topic, and you want to put it together into a book, or they're writing short stories. Wonderful. Collect all of those together from their Google Docs, download them as a PDF, which again, very simple to do. Any Google Doc you have, you can simply just go File, Download as, PDF, and boom, there you go. You've got a PDF of it, as simple as that. Well, then you can upload it to the Google Play Bookstore, and anybody in the world can get access to it. Now, just to prove that this is true, here is the Google Play Bookstore, and I'm going to run a quick search for my name, Eric Curts, and you will see that I uploaded a copy of Improving Writing with Google Docs, that long 17-page PDF of the Google Doc that I have linked in as one of the resources for this session. I went ahead and just tested it out and said, well, let's see, does this work? And it sure did. So I was able to upload that to the Google Play Bookstore. Now, anybody who wants to can go, and for free, they can download that. And apparently a few people have. That's great. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. That's neat. It was just kind of a proof of concept thing, but it's neat to see a few people have actually clicked on that and tried it out. So the point is, you can really go worldwide if you want using the Google Play Bookstore. Now, again, we're moving kind of quick through these topics here today. I want to remind you, in that document, which again is linked in a number of spots here, it goes into a lot more detail on all of these things, and I actually have a section just on that nearer to the end. So if I scroll down pretty close to the end, you'll see I've got a whole section on, there it is, on the Google Play Bookstore. And it kind of talks you through the main steps of getting an account, uploading your book. It also talks about a free tool that you can use if you want to convert into an EPUB instead of a PDF. So more details in the handout. And again, all of that information is available at tiny.cc/spark216. You'll find that document there. All right, so let's move into the last step. So we've talked about using collaboration between students and you as the teacher giving feedback. We've talked about sharing the students' documents out to the world. The last thing we're going to hit on is tools to improve the writing process. And sometimes this is the really fun section because these are really neat things. And again, there's no way we can cover all of them. We're going to hit on just a couple of our favorites. Jess is going to demonstrate one, and I'm going to demonstrate one that we think can be really helpful in the writing process. And then I'll just mention the others really quick as we go through here. Now, for these tools, there are a variety of tools. Some of them are Chrome web apps and extensions. What that means is you have to be using the Chrome web browser, and that means you install them from the Chrome Web Store. Okay, so if you go to the Chrome Web Store, you can install web apps and extensions. Some other ones are add-ons, and what that means is when you're inside of Google Docs and you click the add-ons menu, you can go and you can get add-ons. There we go. Whoops. Sorry about that. Oh, mine's not opening up. Just a moment. That's okay. We'll come back to that guy. There it is. There we go. So when you click, yeah, I'm a bit of an add-ons addict. I think I've installed a few too many, but you can go to add-ons inside of Docs and you can click on Get Add-ons. So some of these are add-ons, some of them are apps and extensions, and then some of the tools are actually already built into Google Docs. You just might not know about them. All right, so the first one that I'm going to talk about is actually Read and Write for Google. Now, Read and Write for Google is a Chrome web extension. So what that means is you have to go to the Chrome Web Store to get it. And if you're not used to the Chrome Web Store, basically if you just open up a new tab, and typically if you click on your little apps button in the top left-hand corner, the very first icon should be for the Chrome Web Store. If you're using a Chromebook, it's kind of the reverse. You click in the bottom left-hand corner to get to that list of apps. But the Chrome Web Store is a collection of all sorts of awesome web apps and extensions that you can install in Chrome. Well, Read and Write for Google is one of those. And I've got a link in here. It's in the document. It's also in the slideshow that'll take you straight out to Read and Write for Google. And I've installed that one, and I think I've got it on my other account, my other screen. So let me bring it up. Yep, here we go. And I've already installed it on my other account. And what it does is when you have Read and Write for Google installed, you get this little toolbar up here at the top that normally isn't there. So you can just go about as normal, but if you want, there's this little RW read and write button up at the top. You can click on that. It gives you this little drop down, and it gives you all of these awesome tools that you can use while you're writing. Now, we could spend a whole session just going through all of the tools inside of read and write, but I'm going to show you the one that my son Grant was using, and he was using the text to speech tool. And what I mean by that is I can come in here and I can highlight anything in the document I want, and then I can click the little play button up here. And what it will do is it will actually read out loud that stuff. Now, I'm going to try this real quick. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it or not because I'm wearing headphones. I'm going to try to put the headphones near the microphone. So let's see. Let's see. We'll give it a shot and see if this actually works, if you can hear it. Let's try it. So again, I'm not sure if you're picking that up or not, but I'm doing my best to put the headphones near there. All right.
We can't hear it.
What's that?
I don't think we can hear it.
Too bad. Okay. Well, take my word. It is reading that aloud. I wasn't sure if that would come through or not, but that's okay. And what's nice about it is, in addition to doing text to speech, you can go to the options up here. There's a little gear in the top right, and you can pick whatever voice you want. There's, male voices and female voices. We have different nationalities. Now, I personally like the British female lady. She's my friend. She makes everything sound better. So I usually choose her because no matter what she says, it always makes it sound like I wrote something much better. But the point behind this is, this is a very powerful tool. If you talk to, people who write for a living, a person who's a novelist or whatever, they'll say a lot of times hearing your own writing read back to you really goes a long way to being able to improve it and find things that don't make sense, or you say something twice, or you leave out a word. Because here's the thing, guys, we all know this. When we write, we see what our brain wants to see. How many times have you looked at something and read through it 3 times and you don't see that you put the word "the" in there twice, But as soon as you hear it read back to you, you catch those things. And so that's what my second grader was doing. He is typing up his report, and then he was hitting the play button, and he was listening to it being read back to him. That's a wonderful tool to help students in the writing process. Jess, I'm going to go ahead and switch the screen over to you now, because I know you're going to talk about a different tool, and I believe it's the speech recognition tool. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
Is my screen up? You're good?
You are good, yeah.
Okay. There are a lot of different ways to use this for teachers as well as students, and I think it does a very good job of picking up what you are saying. One thing I have found out while playing with it is that if you need a period or a comma or exclamation point, you need to speak that, and it will put it in for you. So once you have the add-on added to your account, to start using it, you're going to click on add-ons, come down to speak recognition, click start. You're going to get a slide out menu to the right. And once it loads, you can choose your language, and there are many to pick from. I'm going to choose English for today's purposes. And once you're ready, you click start. You can begin speaking in Google, and it will turn your speech into text, period. I think this is a great tool with a lot of capability. Exclamation point, exclamation point. And when you're finished, you click stop, and there you have it. Let's check it though to see how it did. And it did it with 100%. I tend to speak very fast, so sometimes it doesn't catch all my words. So one thing to remember is to speak slowly. And the accuracy is very good. I would like to share how this has impacted one of our elementary classrooms. Is that okay, Eric? Are we okay on time?
Absolutely, yeah, please do.
All right. We use this in one of our special education classrooms that recently started using Google. And some of the students in this classroom struggle with the fine motor skills needed for keyboarding, and others just have a difficult time with written expression in general. They can't think of the word and then get it out keyboarding. It's really hard for them. And this tool has allowed them the opportunity to work independently for the first time. The quality of their work has greatly improved. And it's so awesome to see them proud of their work. And when they go and get it out of the printer, they're so excited because they did it all by themselves. And I will say that one of the students has a little bit of trouble with speech, and it's still about 80% accurate in translating her speech. So I think it's a very powerful tool, and I just like to use it for brainstorming because sometimes I'm lazy and I don't want to type. So I just start talking, and after I'm done, then I can go back and tweak what I need to. So that's speech recognition.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much for sharing that. Yeah, any tool that helps, I mean, that's great. You know, different students work in different ways. Some like stream of consciousness, just want to get those thoughts out there and then, you know, change them later. And others might have a struggle typing. And this is just another great way to get their thoughts out. So like I said, there are other tools. We won't have time to demo them, but I did want to mention them. Another great extension is called Draft Back. And what it does is it actually plays back your revision history live. So we already talked about revision history, and that's still great in itself. But this is like another extension beyond that. So with Draft Back, you can go into any document, click the Draft Back button, and what it will do is like play like a live video showing the actual document being typed up, and you can adjust the speed. But again, the point behind this is it gives you access into the student's writing process you never would have had before. You can actually watch them writing and see what mistakes do they make? You know, where do they get stuck? What is the order? Do they just write straight from start to the end? Do they go back and change things? It's a great way to, again, get that peek into the student's writing process. Now, we talked about read and write. We talked about speech recognition. Another great tool is Kaizena. Love this tool. It could be its own session just by itself. This is an add-on that allows you to record your voice as the teacher and leave recorded comments on the student's document. So just like you could use the normal text comments, which is fantastic, you can take that a step further and you can personalize it a bit. You can highlight anything in the student's document, and then you can click the record button in Kaizena, and you can record your voice giving them feedback on their document as well. Another tool that is built into Google Docs, you don't even have to install this one, is the research tool. If you're not familiar with that, you can simply go up to tools and then click on research, and it opens up the research panel over here on the side, and it allows you to search for websites, images, quotes, dictionary entries, lots of different things like that. It's a great way for students who are writing to not have to leave their document. They can do research right on the side, and better yet, it provides accurate citations. So if you end up choosing a quote or inserting an image or grabbing a website that you reference, it will add footnotes for you with proper citation, and it will give you the option including MLA, APA, and Chicago citation. So what a great tool to have research built in right on the side of your document. And then similar to that, one last quick one on that vein is the bibliography tool. This is from EasyBib. This is an add-on, and it allows you to build a works cited page. And again, if you've got this one installed, it pops up a little panel to the side, and you can search for all the different resources that you used, books, websites, articles, and then it will build your list of resources and references, and then you simply click Add to Doc, and it will create a works cited page and add it to the end of your document. So another wonderful tool to help students be more organized with their writing. All right, now I'm sure there's a whole lot more than that, and but time is against us, and we're starting to come to the end of our time here today. So I do want to mention a couple quick things as we wrap up. And Jess, if you get a chance to scroll through some of the questions, maybe people had asked, if there's something there that hasn't been answered that we need to address, please let me know. But as we wrap things up here, just wanted to remind you guys of a couple of things, which is, again, if you like this format, hey, I do this about every other week, and one of my colleagues does it on the other weeks. So typically once a week, you can go to ti.apps.spark.org and see our upcoming webinars, as well as watch all of our recorded ones in the past. Then I also wanted to let you know that, again, all of the resources for this session today can be found at tiny.cc/spark216. And what I mean by that, when I say those resources, that included, let me see if I can pull that up here for you real quick again, that includes the help guide that I've mentioned several times. So for those of you who could not find the help guide, tiny.cc/spark216. That'll take you out to the page, and you'll see there's the help guide. That's the 17-page help guide. And then also the slideshow is there. But this is also where you can go to take a quiz to get a certificate of attendance. So if you'd like to get a proof of attendance for watching this session today, it's a short 5-question quiz. You just take that, and if you pass it, I'll send you a PDF certificate of attendance for that session here today. Those links are also all linked in on the Education on Air document, which I know some of you have referenced that as well. So Jess, anything else that you've noticed in the questions that we need to address?
No, I think you posted the link for the book that you did, because that was in your session resources.
You got it.
There is a question, just to reiterate, this can be used for younger students, grades K through 6, definitely, correct?
Absolutely. Everything we're talking about here today is, K through 12. My second grader, like I said, used pretty much most of the tools we mentioned here today, and we see students sharing and collaborating, all the way down to second grade. That for sure I've seen. And if you're using Google Classroom, it makes it even easier, because with Google Classroom, the students really don't even have to know much about sharing and collaborating. You as the teacher can take a Google Doc, you can write up a writing prompt, and then you can push that out to all of your students through Google Classroom. So they all get a copy of the document just for them to type in. And what Google Classroom does is it shares it with you and the student at the same time. So you write up the template, you push it out to the students through Google Classroom, they all get their copy. And from the moment you do that, you can start following them to see how are they doing. You can open up the document, check on their progress. You can leave feedback for them. They don't even have to know anything about sharing at all. It all gets done. So especially for younger students, Classroom can be really useful for that. But yes, all of these tools certainly would work K through 12.
Okay. Is the tool easily usable for teachers and school districts that do not use Google tools? Could this be integrated with another tool?
Well, if you don't have Google Apps for Education in your district, you would then have to be using personal Google accounts. And anybody can get a Gmail account. And I do know sometimes that happens with schools. For whatever reason, a school may say, we're not going to roll out Google Apps. Well, in that case, you as a teacher would need to get your own personal Gmail account, and the students would need to have accounts as well, but they wouldn't be through Google Apps. They'd be personal accounts. What you would lose would be Google Classroom. Classroom is only available in Google Apps for Education. What you wouldn't lose is everything else. You'd still have access to Google Docs, all of the add-ons we talked about, all the extensions, so Read and Write for Google, the speech recognition add-on, the research tool, EasyBib, the sharing and collaborating. All of that is just part of Google tools, no matter what, whether it's a personal Gmail account or Google Apps. The part where you lose things is, you would not have Google Classroom unless you're using Google Apps for Education. If, though, your school is not using Google Apps and you would like to encourage them to do so, there are so many wonderful resources out there, but please feel free to contact me, and I would be happy to chat with your school and hook them up with some good resources to help them understand the value and benefit of Google Apps for Education, which is completely free, no charge whatsoever for schools. It is just a great, great, great tool that schools can have at their disposal. Anything else that you noticed in there?
There were two just came in about the speak recognition tool. It is a web add-on. It is not standard in Docs. You have to go in, as Eric showed, and add it to your account. And
that is correct. It is through add-ons. You have to click on add-ons and then click on get add-ons. And then from there, you can find it in that list. And this list gets kind of randomly rearranged every time I open it. So you got to kind of search for it. But in this case, there it is, speech recognition. But any one you like in there, you can just click on the plus free button to install. And once you do that, it gets added to your list of add-ons. And that's a little different, like I said, from the Chrome Web Store. In the Chrome Web Store, you go to the Chrome Web Store and you search for something like Read and Write, and then once you find it, then you can click the plus free button to install the web apps and extensions.
And they would also like to know if the speech recognition tool requires training, and I would say definitely not.
It's worked right out of the gate for me as well. I didn't have any problem using it from the moment I got it installed. It seemed to understand me fine, and it was pretty easy to use.
We even tried it out. We, in one recording, recorded, I I think we had 3 different voices, and it picked up all 3, even with the change in that single recording. So I would say no training. Just if you have somebody that speaks really quickly, tell them to slow down.
All right. Anything else you caught there?
No, I think we covered, I mean, we can't get through obviously everything, but I think we covered pretty much everything we needed to.
Very good. Well, I want to thank Jess for being with us here today, and really appreciate you being an assistant with this, keeping an eye on everything, and for your great suggestions and comments and things you shared. I really appreciate that. I also want to put a big thanks out to Google for putting this day on, and hopefully they will do more of these in the future. And just a big thanks in general to Google for all of the resources they provide us with. So if you want to pass this along to somebody else, these sessions are recorded. So if you liked what you saw here today, let people know. You can send them to the Education on Air site, or again, if you go to my tiny.cc/spark216, the recorded video will be there as well. It'll also be included with all of the past webinars that I do through Spark. Definitely feel free to get in touch with me. My Twitter handle is @Eric Curts. You can find everything else at www.ericcurts.com, and would absolutely love to connect with folks in the future. So thanks so very much for taking the time out today on this beautiful Saturday. Hopefully it's beautiful where you are as well. And until next time, take care, and thanks again.